Welcome to Real Talk Baseball. I am Will Power, your host and fantasy baseball analyst. Today we're going to talk about is Carlos Correa droppable, Tim Anderson possibly to LA, Bobby Miller's debut, and two-star pitchers for next week. All coming up on Real Talk Fantasy Baseball. All right, so today I'm actually going to do things a little bit differently since I'm by myself. I'm going to go on Instagram Live as well. Checking connection. What's up, Instagram? Welcome to my live podcast. I am also streaming on YouTube right now. So just to kind of give you guys a taste of what I do, this is the behind the scenes episode. And we're going to go ahead and get started on Real Talk Fantasy Baseball. So let's check. Jasper is there in the comments. What's up, Jasper? Glad you're there. Hopefully, we'll get a couple more people joining in on the chat today. Today, for our first subject, we're going to be talking about Carlos Correa. Carlos Correa, he was a monster at Houston, and he just hasn't panned out on the Twins lineup last year or this year. And honestly, I really think it's just injuries. It's not just the plantar fasciitis that he has right now, or like the leg cramping or his foot issues. It's every year something kind of comes up, whether it's the back issue or random things that kind of happen for him. He's 28 years old, so he should be in the prime of his life. He's a big dude. He doesn't look big on TV. He's a little bit on the thinner side, but he's 6'4", 220 pounds. So he should, he should have the stature where he can actually like go out there and be physically able to play every day. But, as we saw during the offseason when he was potentially going to get signed by the Mets, potentially going to get signed by the Giants, bunch of teams just kind of throwing money at him, and he just kept on failing that physical. And we're seeing it now in the first 2 months of the season in 2023 that he's fragile. Things just kind of keep on happening for him. Last season, in April, he was only batting 243, had a 309 on base percentage, a 324 slug, 633 OPS, only had one homer in April, only 9 runs scored and 13 RBI. But then last year in May, he actually turned it up a little bit, started batting 318 in the month of May, 384 on base percentage, 884 OPS, had a couple homers, 8 runs, and 14 RBI scored. So that's a little bit better than what he's been doing this season. So is he droppable? This season, he is currently batting 213 with a 244 expected batting average. That is way below what we would like to see from him. It's just not panning out for Carlos Correa. And honestly, it sucks because I had him actually on both of my fantasy lineups. So the question is he droppable? I guess that depends on what your lineup looks like. So I have him in both of my leagues. I actually just dropped him in one of my leagues because I also have Bo Bichette. I have Willie Adames, Tommy Edman, 3 shortstops that I could potentially, just throw in my lineup and have Carlos Correa on the bench. And I was sick of wasting a bench spot on Carlos Correa. So if there was another fantasy option out there on the bench or out there in waivers or free agency that I thought could possibly be someone that I could have in my lineup every day, that's one thing that I was kind of considering. And I did it. I dropped Carlos Correa. I ended up adding a pitcher instead, a streaming pitcher. So nothing too exciting. But like I said before, I had a few options at shortstop. So I didn't really need Carlos Correa in my lineup. Now I have him in another league where my only shortstop option is Wander Franco. And Wander Franco is incredible. This year, he is off to a great start. Looks like he's breaking out in 2023, but he also has injury concerns. So in that league, I'm definitely holding on to Carlos Correa, even if he's going to be sitting on my bench or in my utility spot. I'm optimistic that for the future, Carlos Correa will actually be okay. Maybe it's possible that playing in Minnesota, it's a little bit colder than what he's used to playing in Houston, because Houston in the spring and summer it gets really warm. Minnesota is not so lucky. Minnesota is known for ice hockey and ice fishing and basically everything ice. So it's a little bit different in Minnesota up there. So I think as the weather warms up, Carlos Correa will actually be doing a little better. I actually suffer from the same ailment that Carlos Correa has, plantar fasciitis, and it is no joke, man. There are some times when I wake up for work, I go to work at 4 o'clock in the morning, and I'm going down the stairs from my bedroom, and it just feels like I'm walking on glass, walking on nails. It's bad. If you've ever stepped on a Lego, that's basically what plantar fasciitis feels in the heel of your foot. So I feel for him, but I don't really feel for him because I'm still a little salty about 2017, but that's another story. So is Carlos Correa droppable? If you have specific questions about your lineup, you can go ahead and send me a message on Instagram, or you can email us at realtalkbaseball@yahoo.com. And I will, take a look at your lineup. You can send me screenshots, and, we can go from there. So is he droppable? I'll say in a shallow league, you can go ahead and drop him. There are so many shortstops available. In deeper leagues, it's a little bit harder, or if you have a middle infield spot that you also need to cover, second base is kind of shallow, and shortstop is a little bit deeper. I want to say Carlos Correa is like the 18th ranked shortstop currently, so it's not like he's like doing anyone favors right now. So if you have another option at shortstop, sure, go ahead and drop him if you feel like it. If you feel like you need an advantage at another position in a shallower league where he's either your only shortstop, or if you only have two shortstops, I would probably hang on to him for a bit. Moving on to Michael Harris. So Michael Harris is another one that's just in a little bit of a slump. And if you've watched this show in previous seasons, that I'm a big believer in the sophomore slump. The sophomore slump is real. We've seen it time and time again, where there's so many players that in their rookie year, they just look so amazing. Jonathan India and Cody Bellinger, and I could go on, and in the second season, they're stinking up the place. They're someone that they're on your fantasy league for about 2 months, and then you just get sick and tired of them just not performing, and you end up dropping them. And sometimes it pans out and sometimes it doesn't. But currently, Michael Harris, it's a little harder because I feel like outfield is somewhat shallow. Every team has to fill at least 3 outfield spots. Some leagues fill 5 outfield spots. So if you have Michael Harris, I would try not to drop him. If you have a bench spot available, hold on to him. I definitely wouldn't try to trade him because you're definitely going to be selling low. And he's not the type of person that I want to be selling low, especially because the team he plays on, he's on the Braves. He's young, very talented player. He's only 22 years old. I think in deeper leagues, you got to hold on to him. If you're in a 10-team league, and, the same thing I said with Carlos Correa, if you feel like you can't waste that bench spot on a bat, on an outfielder. If you have options at outfield, there are a lot of options out there on free agency and the waiver wire. So if you think that you can, fill that spot with either hot bats or someone that potentially got dropped because they were slumping as well, go ahead and make that move. But in deeper leagues, 12 teams or bigger, or if you have 5 outfield spots, I definitely hold on to them. Moving on to Bobby Miller's debut for the Los Angeles Dodgers. Now, we saw 2 Dodger debuts for starting pitcher. We saw Gavin Stone pitch the day before Bobby Miller actually did, and Gavin Stone did not impress. We've actually seen him a couple times earlier this season. He got sent back down to AAA, and it just hasn't been the year for Gavin Stone. Even though he's actually a higher prospect on the top 100 than Bobby Miller is, Bobby Miller went out there and he brought it, dude. He's trying to make a statement to make sure that he stays in the starting rotation. And the Dodgers don't have the deep starting rotation like they used to have. When Tony Gonsolin and when Dustin May were both in the minors, starting to make their major league debuts, the Dodgers were deep in starting pitching. But that's when we had Trevor Bauer. That's when they had, Clayton Kershaw. He's the only one still there. That there were so many options. They went out and got Max Scherzer, so that's when Tony Gonsolin and Dustin May were actually, in and out of the bullpen, making spot starts kind of here and there. But now that Dustin May and Tony Gonsolin are main fixtures in that starting rotation, and Dustin May is actually going to be out for a couple months, they definitely need a replacement option. And Bobby Miller is trying to make a statement. At the Braves, he went 5 innings, only allowed 4 hits, 1 earned run, 1 walk, 5 strikeouts. He got the win, 95 pitches. So a minor, I want to say he's 23 or 24 years old. And in his major league debut, he's throwing 95 pitches. I really feel like that's because Dave Roberts and the Dodgers organization, they trust him that he can go deep into games and not necessarily, have to worry about injury concerns, or hopefully not have to worry too much about innings limits. He has a really good arsenal: a 4-seam fastball, a slider, a changeup, a curveball, and a sinker. The 4-seam fastball, the slider, and the changeup, he actually throws a pretty significant amount of time. All 3 of those pitches are about even. On the 4-seamer, that's actually the one that got hit the hardest. There was a 429 batting average against on that, but on his slider, it was a 167 batting average against, and on the changeup, it was a 0 batting average against. So he definitely impressed with his slider and his changeup. On his 25 pitches off the slider, he got 3 swings and misses. On 23 pitches off the changeup, he got 3 swings and misses. And 29 pitches on the 4-seamer, he got 2 swings and misses. So the slider and the changeup, it's looking pretty decent. He had 10 swings and misses total in his debut in 5 innings. And, it looks like he's actually slated to be a 2-star pitcher for next week. So if he's already on your lineup, if you were lucky to go ahead and add him, next week, I believe he has a tougher matchup. I think he's at the Yankees in his first start, and then the second start, I don't remember who he's against, but I remember it was a pretty decent matchup. So Bobby Miller, 2-star pitcher for next week. It's not my 2 choices that I would like to endorse, but if you guys are looking for a starting pitcher for the longevity of the season, I definitely keep an eye on Bobby Miller. Maybe add him to your lineup, and in against stronger teams, it's up to you if you want to start him or not, depending on the team. But, as we saw against the Braves, 5 innings, only 4 hits allowed and 1 earned run. So not too shabby for the Dodgers young prospect. Okay, so that was Bobby Miller. Oh, one more thing about Bobby Miller is he also only allowed 2 extra base hits. So really, really good. Next, I keep on forgetting to add these, man. Not that Instagram can see it or not, but we were talking about Carlos Correa. So for my YouTube audience, I just want to show you this right here. So this is his 2023 stats. In 44 games, he has a 213 batting average with a 698 OPS, 6 home runs, 14 runs, 24 RBI, 45 strikeouts to 22 walks. So he's walking a pretty decent amount. 6 home runs is okay in 45 games, so not too bad. And then We talked about Bobby Miller. Sorry, his stat line at the Braves: 5 innings pitched, 1 earned run, 4 hits, 5 strikeouts to 1 walk. The walks was actually I think the biggest thing for Gavin Stone. I believe he walked 5 batters in his major league appearance in his last outing. So I like Gavin Stone for the future, not necessarily in 2023. And Bobby Miller is still yet to be seen. We shall see. Moving on to our 2-star pitchers for next week. So there are two that I can endorse. I feel like the past few times when I've given you guys the 2-star pitchers, it seemed to pan out pretty nicely. This week, I am actually going with Michael Kopech as my first one. So Michael Kopech, 27 years old, big dude, 6'3", 210 pounds. His rookie season was 2021. It's so weird because it's like I've been hearing this name for so long, and to think that he only debuted 2 years ago, it's wild to me. Expected batting average against is a 236. The first month of the season, in April, it was actually pretty bad for Michael Kopech, but he has turned things around a lot. In April, he has a 7.01 ERA in 5 games started, allowed 8 home runs, and so far in May, he has a 1.99 ERA in 5 games and has only allowed 4 home runs. So, the thing that I see with Michael Kopech in April, and I believe it's 1 start in May so far. So he's had 4 starts total where he's allowed 4 earned runs or more. Versus San Francisco, that was his first start of the season. He allowed 7 earned runs on 8 hits. At Tampa Bay, he allowed 5 earned runs on 6 hits. At the Blue Jays, 4 earned runs on 6 hits. And at Cincinnati, 4 earned runs on 8 hits. Tampa Bay and Toronto, amazing lineups. No wonder that he allowed 5 earned runs and 4 earned runs. At Cincinnati, the second best hitters ballpark in MLB. So it's not surprising that he would actually give up, a few extra hits and maybe a couple extra earned runs. First start of the season versus San Francisco, that one, I'm going to give him a pass on that just because, it was beginning of the season and, pitchers need to warm up. They need to have the rust kind of shaken off in the beginning of the season. That was his worst start of the season, 7 earned runs. But all of those except for Cincinnati were in April. And in May, that 1.99 ERA, like that's looking pretty good. And then this week coming up, he's versus the Angels and versus the Tigers. That Angels lineup doesn't really look so good. All they really have is Mike Trout and Ohtani. A couple lucky hits kind of here and there from other batters, but also versus the Tigers. The Tigers actually have the least runs scored in all of Major League Baseball. They've been playing better as of late. Javi Baez has kind of turned things around, and Akil Baddoo actually just hit a home run this morning, or not this morning. I'm sorry, earlier today. So they're okay, but still, the Tigers are the Tigers. They're probably going to be in last place in the whole league at the end of everything. It's probably going to be between the Tigers and the A's. Tigers definitely for American League, and the A's, I don't know. We'll see. The A's are just kind of something else this season. I don't know what the hell is going on in Oakland. Maybe they're doing it on purpose and tanking on purpose because they're trying to move to Las Vegas. So it wouldn't surprise me if that's the reasoning behind that. Let's see. We have a comment. What's up, Jasper? It's just me tonight, unfortunately. But yeah, man, I'm here. Try to be consistent. I want to try to give as much good content as I can. And I see one person is on Instagram Live right now. What's up, guys? Thank you for watching. So that was our first 2-star pitcher, Michael Kopech, and then our second 2-star pitcher for this coming week, I have Kyle Freeland, and Kyle Freeland, it's a little bit weird because I didn't know this about him, but he actually has a let me see if I can find it. Um, in April, he has a 5.27 ERA, and in May he has a 3.24 ERA. I thought I had it in my notes here, but he actually has a better ERA at home at Coors than he does away from Coors, which was very surprising to me. And both of his starts next week are actually away. They are not at Coors, but I really like the matchups. It's at Arizona and at KC. Arizona was doing really well for a while in the beginning of the season, but they've cooled off since then. And the Royals are just the Royals. They don't really have the best lineup. They have a couple, standouts there, but nothing really to be crazy about. Let's see. 30 years old. He's 6'4", big dude, 204 pounds. His ERA on the season is a 3.86 ERA, a 4.15 expected ERA. I think that could be, somewhat of the Coors Field effect right there. In 58 innings pitched, he has 42 strikeouts, only 14 walks, and has allowed 61 hits. That's a 129 WHIP. So it's right at like that mark, like that 130 mark. The WHIP that I kind of like to stay around. I don't like having pitchers with a WHIP above 130. Average exit velocity that he's allowed is 89.6. So it's a little harder contact than I'd like to see, especially pitching in Coors. But it's been working for him. If he has a lower ERA at home than he does anywhere else. Expected batting average against is a 261, so that's not too bad. Expected slug is a 428. That's not too bad either. Anything under 5 is generally pretty good, and except for Coors. KB Murray on Instagram says, "I'm here. What's up, Mom? Thanks for watching. I appreciate you." Let's see. Kyle Freeland has only had 2 starts where he gave up 4 earned runs or more. That was versus the Pirates, and that's where he just completely melted down. That was in Coors Field. He allowed 9 home runs, and then nine runs. I'm sorry, and at the Rangers he allowed 5 earned runs. So only 2 clunkers so far, and I think he's had 10 starts so far. So not too bad from Kyle Freeland. He's kind of been a little bit of a breakout this season, especially with German Marquez not being part of the Rockies staff right now because he's injured. I believe he's out for the season. And that's it for the 2-star pitchers. Let me get rid of this picture real quick. All right. So next, I want to talk about Tim Anderson possibly going to the Los Angeles Dodgers. Now, Tim Anderson, career stats, he's batting 286, has a 315 on base percentage and a 751 on base plus slugging percentage. So I see this guy as a potential superstar. He has 2020 potential, possibly, every year he's on pace for 20 home runs and on pace for 20 steals. This guy just can't seem to stay healthy. He hasn't played a full season since 2018. That was 5 years ago. The closest was 2021, and in 2019 he played 123 games. So he missed a little more than a month of the season in both of those seasons. But he's a really good player. He's very very skilled, very talented. It's just the injuries that just keep on piling up for Tim Anderson. And the Dodgers already have like not a stacked infield, but a very deep infield. They went out and signed veteran Miguel Rojas. He's a free agent in 2026, so they're going to have him on the roster for a while. Max Muncy doesn't hit free agency until 2025. Miguel Vargas is a rookie, so he's going to be with the Dodgers for a while. Chris Taylor, who kind of plays all over the field. He'll play some third, some short, some second, some left field. He's doesn't hit free agency till 2027, and Gavin Lux. We can't forget about Gavin Lux. Unfortunately for Gavin Lux, he had I believe it was an ACL tear or an MCL. No, it was definitely an ACL tear, and he's out for the season. But he doesn't hit free agency until 2027. And if the Dodgers do trade for Tim Anderson, he doesn't hit free agency until 2025. So you have um, all these, potential infielders that the Dodgers are going to have, and at least until the 2025 season. So I don't really see the point of going after Tim Anderson unless the Dodgers are trying to get a package deal, possibly go after Dylan Cease to bolster that starting rotation that is not so deep anymore. I know Dylan Cease has been kind of shaky this season, and fantasy owners, and White Sox fans alike are just kind of like, we don't know what to do with this guy, with Dylan Cease. And honestly, I don't have him on any of my leagues, but I'd probably be scratching my head trying to figure out what to do with Dylan Cease also. It's a little bit of a sticky situation because he was drafted very high in fantasy drafts, and he is supposed to be the White Sox ace. And the White Sox have just been having some bad luck this season with Lance Lynn and with Dylan Cease and Tim Anderson. Tim Anderson, I believe, has only played where is it at? 33 games of the 52 total. So he's already missed some time this season. So it's not the best scenario that we'd like to see, especially if the Dodgers are really going to go after Tim Anderson. It's kind of just like, what's the point? We already have the shortstop role kind of filled. I guess the only thing there would be to platoon possibly Tim Anderson. That would actually help Mookie Betts stay in right field. That way Mookie wouldn't have to play shortstop so often. Mookie playing shortstop and second base this season has actually helped a lot for fantasy owners because he gains shortstop and second base eligibility. And that I actually have Mookie Betts in one of my leagues, and having him at second base, it's amazing to have him, in such a shallow position in a fantasy lineup. So I do like that aspect. He'll definitely keep the shortstop, second base, and outfield eligibility up through this season and next season, and we'll see if that plan actually happens. The trade deadline is still a couple months away, so there's a lot of baseball to be had until that point. We'll see if Dylan Cease can actually turn things around and possibly increase his trade value. Same thing with Tim Anderson, and we'll see if the Dodgers actually go for that. Let's see. Springer says Anderson, when he's on, he's on. And exactly, dude. I love Tim Anderson. I love the way he plays. He's very emotional. He talks about baseball like he had opportunities to play other sports, and he actually chose baseball because he just loves it so much. And I love that about these Major League Baseball players, that a lot of them play just because they love the game, not just for the paycheck, or not just because it's what they were kind of like brought up doing. He does it because he loves it, and he's an exciting player to watch. Also, the bat flips, the emotion. It's great to see. So that is basically all I had in line for this episode. We've been on for about a half hour now, so I can actually go over this weekend's probable pitchers for Saturday and Sunday. We can call it to add or not to add. I would like to call it something else, but there's another podcast that calls it what I would like to call it. So for Saturday, probable starters, I'm going to scroll down a little bit so that way I can see the less owned bunch. So Tyler Glasnow is actually going to make his Major League debut, or not Major League debut, I'm sorry, 2023 debut I definitely would not start him. First start back in a really long time, and he's going against the Dodgers. No, thank you. If you have him in your lineup, cool. Put him on your bench. I would not start him, especially against a stacked Dodgers lineup. Next, we have Brady Singer. Let's see. It's versus Washington. So it's in KC. Brady Singer was Javi's 2-star pitcher option this last week. And I believe he pitched on Monday and he was terrible. So I guess it depends on what your final score is looking like for this weekend. If you already have him in your lineup and you feel like you need to start him to possibly get that win this week, go ahead and start him. If he's not owned anywhere, I personally would not add him just to start him for this Saturday. Andrew Heaney at Baltimore. Yeah, I could do that. Baltimore's cooled off a bit, so they don't really have the best lineup in the world. In the beginning of the season, they were very hot. All their bats were very hot, but they've cooled off since then. Michael Wacha has been pitching amazing lately. Even though it's at the Yankees, I would still start Michael Wacha. So yes on Michael Wacha at the Yankees. Josiah Gray has been amazing this season at the Royals. So against a weak lineup, definitely start Josiah Gray. He was actually one of my options for 2-star pitcher for this week. Jack Flaherty at Cleveland. Jack Flaherty has been kind of up and down this season, but Cleveland, they haven't really had the best offense lately. So I'll say yes. Go ahead and start him. Tanner Bybee versus the Cardinals. Good pitcher against a good lineup. I think I'm still going to start him. I like Tanner Bybee. I think that Cleveland is just letting him just go. They're not giving him any restrictions. And St. Louis, they were on somewhat of a hot streak. They swept the Phillies, and they've been hitting pretty good, but it's mostly their stars that are actually hitting, like Goldschmidt and Arenado. Other than that, the lineup's okay, but I'd still start Tanner Bybee. Let's see. Moving on. Edward Cabrera at the Angels. I'm going to say no on that. I just don't start. I don't trust Edward Cabrera this season. I think that in the future, Edward Cabrera is going to be amazing. But in 2023, I think that it's okay if you have him in your lineup, but I wouldn't start him against, Ohtani and Mike Trout. Jameson Taillon versus Cincinnati. It's in Chicago. So I'm going to say yes. Go ahead and start Taillon. Garrett Whitlock coming back from injury at Arizona. He's probably not going to pitch too deep, but yeah, I'll go ahead and start Garrett Whitlock at Arizona. Dean Kramer versus Texas. I'm going to give a big yes to this. I actually added him in my 12-team keeper league. Definitely not one of my keepers for next season, but I like the matchup. I like that it's in Baltimore and they extended the left field fence. So yeah, go ahead and start Dean Kramer versus Texas. Michael Lorenzen. This was another one of Javi's 2-star pitchers that he had for last week. Michael Lorenzen versus the White Sox. I'm going to go ahead and say, yeah, go ahead and start Michael Lorenzen. The White Sox don't look like anything special this year. Sorry, Jasper. Roansy Contreras at Seattle. I know Javi really likes Roansy Contreras, and even though Seattle is a pitcher's ballpark and they don't have the greatest lineup, I just don't trust Roansy Contreras this season, so I'm going to say no on him. And let's see. I'm going to go through one more page and see if there's any more. Here we go. Brandon Williamson. All right, we're getting to the bottom of the barrel. So if all those pitchers that I have said, if you feel like you need to add, go ahead and add. But I feel like that's it for Saturday. I'm not even going to bother going through the rest of them. We have like Chase Anderson versus the Mets in Colorado. So hell no. Um, yeah, let's go ahead and move on to Sunday now. So Sunday, the 28th. Scroll down a bit because obviously Garrett Cole's not available and Dylan Cease isn't available. Jose Barrios, that one's it. If you have Dylan Cease on your roster at Minnesota, Minnesota doesn't have the offense right now, so I'm gonna go ahead and say start him. Oh, that one scares me a bit because Jose Barrios is just like he'll pitch amazing. He'll go 7 innings and have 11 strikeouts, and then the next day he'll pitch or the next start he'll go 1.5 innings and give up 7 earned runs. So um, I like the skill set, but I don't like the results sometimes. So that one completely up to you guys. If I had Jose Barrios in my lineup, if I needed to start him, I would start him. If I'm ahead in points or if I'm not trying to mess up my ERA and WHIP, then I'm definitely not starting him. If you're in a categories league and you're already losing by your matchup in ERA and WHIP, I would go ahead and start him. You know what? Why not try to rack up some strikeouts and maybe tomorrow or maybe on Sunday he'll be on and he'll throw a gem. You never know with that guy. Alex Cobb at Milwaukee. Alex Cobb is another one of those guys where he just kind of has like a few good starts and a few bad starts at Milwaukee. Milwaukee's actually been hitting pretty decent lately, and Milwaukee's a hitter's ballpark. So I'm going to say no on Alex Cobb. Jordan Montgomery at Cleveland. I like Montgomery at Cleveland, who I talked about earlier. They don't have the best lineup right now. Their offense is kind of lacking. So yes, I'll go ahead and start Jordan Montgomery. Drew Smiley versus Cincinnati. Drew Smiley had Drew Smiley's actually been really good this season. So versus Cincinnati, I'll go ahead and start him. Patrick Sandoval versus Miami. It's in LA. I'm gonna say yes. Go ahead and start Patrick Sandoval versus Miami. Bailey Ober versus Toronto. That one I'm gonna say bench. Toronto has a good lineup, and Bailey Ober, he's been good, but I don't trust him against a Toronto lineup. Yuri Perez, the rookie sensation from the Marlins, who's had one good start so far, I believe, only one start. At the Angels, I'm gonna say yeah. I like Yuri Perez. I think that he has a lot of potential, a lot of swing and miss potential. So yeah, let's go ahead and start him against the Angels. Taj Bradley versus the Dodgers. Now, usually against the Dodgers lineup, I would say no, hell no. Don't start any pitcher against the Dodgers, especially a rookie. But, excuse me. But I really like Taj Bradley. I've been high on Taj Bradley all season. So I'm going to say yes. Go ahead and start Taj Bradley against the Dodgers. The Tampa Bay Rays just seem to be outscoring every single team that they're facing. So, possibly if he can go 5 innings, he'll most likely either get the win or take the no decision. I don't think he'll take the loss. I don't think the Dodgers this season have the lineup where they can easily take out any pitcher anymore. Completely different from previous seasons, but they're saving that Shohei Ohtani money for next season. Moving on to Dane Dunning. This is my other 2-star pitcher from last week. This is his second start this week. Dane Dunning at Baltimore. So yes, I'm definitely endorsing Dane Dunning. Mackenzie Gore at the Royals. Mackenzie Gore is another one of those pitchers that's just kind of up and down. So it's a maybe, but at the Royals, I'll say yes. Go ahead and start Mackenzie Gore. Graham Ashcraft has been terrible lately at the Cubs. The Cubs have actually been scoring a lot of runs lately, so I'm going to say no on Graham Ashcraft. Tyler McGill at Colorado. Hell no. I had Tyler McGill last season and this season. And last season he was great. This season in the beginning he was actually doing very well, but lately he's been throwing a few clunkers, and I just don't trust him in Colorado. Sorry, Mets fans. Tanner Houck at Arizona. I really like what I'm seeing from Tanner Houck recently. So if this guy's available, go ahead and pick him up. I think that he's less than 50% owned. It in my opinion, it should actually be more than that. Most likely, I believe that Alex Cora said that he's going to be part of the rotation for the rest of the season. So you can count on that. And against the Arizona's weak lineup, well, not weak lineup, but mediocre lineup, I'll go ahead and start Tanner Houck. Marco Gonzalez versus Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's cooled off a lot since the beginning of the season. So, yes, I'm going to say yes on Marco Gonzalez. Kyle Bradish versus Texas. I'm going to give a yes. We'll go through one more page. Gavin Stone at Tampa Bay. Hell no, especially after that clunker that we saw on Tuesday. I believe it was, it was Tuesday. Austin Gomber versus the Mets. That's in Colorado. No, thank you. And Luis Ortiz from Pittsburgh at Seattle. I'm gonna say no. I don't trust Pittsburgh pitchers, and even though Seattle doesn't have the greatest lineup right now, I just don't trust them. And we'll go through one more page just for shits and giggles. Colin Ray from Milwaukee versus San Francisco. It's in Milwaukee, so I'm going to say no. Hunter Gaddis from Cleveland versus St. Louis. I'm going to say no. Luis Medina of Oakland versus Houston. Hell no. And that's it for Sunday. So let's see. We got a couple more comments. Let's see. Streamers. Yes, sir. Streamers. That is the way to win your league towards the end of the week if you are lacking. So I've added a couple streamers this week, and a couple of them have worked out for me. I think I got 23 points from someone this week, and then a couple other guys I got like -3, -5. So those didn't work out for me. But it's like this season, pitching has kind of been all over the place. So it's hard to know who to trust and who not to trust. Even guys like Corbin Burns, who is one of the best pitchers in Major League Baseball, he just he hasn't been the ace that we've been hoping for this season. He got drafted in the first round in most leagues, and he's still decent, but we didn't pay first round price for decent. We paid first round price for excellence, and he just hasn't been there. Garrett Cole, he has been pitching really good in the first month and a half of the season, but he's kind of showing certain signs of some negative feedback that I'm seeing. So just be careful with that for the future, for the rest of the season. Thanks, Jasper. Appreciate you being here for the entirety of the show. All right, so we are at the 43-minute mark, and that basically concludes anything that I wanted to talk about today. So remember to like and subscribe to our channel. That would be very helpful. And this Monday coming up, we have Carlos and Ernie Orange doing their baseball show on the same channel. So make sure you like and subscribe, please. And I am Will Power for Real Talk Fantasy Baseball, and I'm signing out, and I'll see you guys next week. Oh, and happy Memorial Day.